Welcome in. This is Chiefs Chase. My name is Mike Bassano, and thank you so much for joining me here on the offseason check-in.
Mahomes still has it to the 5 and in for the touchdown. And his worst pass of the night is on the spike attempt.
New season of Chiefs Chase will be coming in training camp time, but for right now, we're going to have an off-season check-in. We'll have them periodically throughout the off-season, and actually, today was scheduled. We were scheduled to do a show today, but we didn't know that there would be breaking news in the Chiefs' kingdom when we decided to do this show. We'll get to that in just a second. Also, hear the reason why Travis Kelce is returning and the one thing that Travis Kelce has to do to capitalize on his return. We'll get to that here in just a few minutes, but first, the Kansas City Chiefs have traded Joe Thuney to the Chicago Bears for the 2026 fourth-round pick. Now, that's an interesting thing on a lot of levels, and there's a lot to dive into here. First and foremost, I feel panic. Panic coming from Chiefs Kingdom over the fact that it feels like this might be a bit of a rebuilding move. But I'll say this. After that Super Bowl performance, there's nobody on the offensive line who should have been considered untouchable. I know Joe Thuney felt like a bright spot there, but when you as a collective give up 8 sacks, have Patrick Mahomes running for his life the entire Super Bowl, and the Eagles did all of that without blitzing once, everybody's exposable. Everybody's disposable. Everybody can be sent away. There's not one guy who's untouchable after putting in that kind of performance as an offensive line collective. So getting rid of Joe Thuney for the Kansas City Chiefs feels more like a move on to a new era for the offensive line. We saw something very similar after the Chiefs got spanked by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. The Chiefs went and they revamped the entire offensive line. Offensive line, more than anything, is a unit position. You can point to, well, this guy gave up that sack. Jawan Taylor's getting penalized every 5 plays. We can point to those things, and they would be absolutely true. But the fact is, as a collective, the offensive line failed the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl. It is the number one reason why the Chiefs didn't win that game. We can point to a lot of other things. Travis had a bad game. Patrick Mahomes was off for the first 2.5 quarters. The defense obviously gave up a ton of points. There are a lot of reasons why the Kansas City Chiefs lost that game. But at the top of the list for why the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl, it is the offensive line. And that means nobody on that offensive line is guaranteed a spot on the 2025 Kansas City Chiefs, and that includes Joe Thuney, who is now going to the Chicago Bears for a 2026 fourth-round pick. Now, to address the rebuilding part of this, because I understand, I get it. There's a good chance you look at this and you go, hey, Mike, they're rebuilding. This is a rebuilding move. I think that's fair. However, the Chiefs don't rebuild. We saw this with the Tyreek Hill trade before the 2022 season. It felt like a rebuilding trade for the Kansas City Chiefs, much like this Joe Thuney trade, and everybody wrote off the Chiefs. I remember Barstool Sports picked them to finish dead last in the AFC West. And what happened in 2022? Oh, nothing. Patrick Mahomes just had an MVP season and the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. So I don't want to hear anything about rebuilding for the Kansas City Chiefs, because what we've seen throughout history is that the Chiefs don't rebuild. They reload. And that's what's happening with this Chiefs offensive line. And yeah, it stinks to see a guy like Joe Thuney walk out the door who's meant so much to this team and so much to the NFL over his career. But at this point, looking at the offensive line as a collective and the way they got crushed by the Philadelphia Eagles, you have to reload the offensive line. That has to be the number one priority for this offseason. And that means you're going to have to part with some guys that maybe you really like. But the guys that you really like are the number one reason why the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl to the Philadelphia Eagles. So I'm not worried about some kind of rebuilding phase going on in Kansas City, because the Chiefs haven't had a rebuilding phase since Andy Reid took over as head coach. Where is the rebuilding year? They've had 0 losing seasons since Andy Reid took over as head coach in Kansas City, and I see no reason why that's going to stop. The Chiefs are reloading now on the offensive line through the draft, through free agency. You got to cut out some of the guys that you don't think fit anymore and bring in somebody with some tenacity, because that's what I think is missing from this Chiefs offensive line. It's something I felt like was missing all year long. We talked about it on this show all year. The offensive line was a liability. I called DJ Humphries the most important acquisition in the history of the Kansas City Chiefs if he worked out. And honestly, I still believe that. I believe if you go back and DJ Humphries comes in and he plays lights out, call it Willie Rowe from the past. He steps in at left tackle and DJ Humphries dominates. That means Joe Thuney gets to stay at left guard and the entire offensive line looks entirely different. And you get to still keep that rushing attack that fell off a cliff after Thuney was moved to left tackle. So if all of that had happened, I think the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. I think the Chiefs are the first team ever to three-peat in NFL history if they had gone out and gotten a bookend solid left tackle. They didn't. And we talked about it. We talked about it in October. I said that will be the undoing of this Chiefs football team in 2024 if they do not get the left tackle figured out and they do not find a way to successfully and consistently protect Patrick Mahomes. They didn't. And that means everybody's on notice. Everybody. There's no one on the offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs that you could ever deem untouchable at this point, because look what the Eagles did. 0 blitzes. That's like the most damning stat in the history of an offensive line. They got 8 sacks, pressure Mahomes all day, and they blitzed 0 times? There's not an argument to keep any offensive lineman for the Kansas City Chiefs. And Brett Veach just made it abundantly clear that everybody on that Chiefs offensive line, they're on the chopping block. And that's what happens when you have a meltdown game like the Chiefs offensive line did against the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl. Now, you have to put some respect on Brett Veach here too. I know that there's some panicking Chiefs fans, but you have to trust in Brett Veach, and we'll discuss why we have to trust in Brett Veach coming up here in just a little bit. But first, we got to get to Travis Kelce. Also, the 2025 Chiefs season will be known for one thing. We'll tell you what that is coming up here in just a little bit. But first, Travis Kelce is back for a final year, and here he is on New Heights podcast talking about the Travis Kelce return.
You play another season.
The biggest thing is that I love playing the game of football.
That's a good reason.
I love playing. I still feel like I could play it at a high level and possibly at a higher level than I did last year. I don't think it was my best outing. I let my guys down in a lot more moments than I helped them, especially if you look at my track record and how I've been in years past. I want to give it a good run. I got a bad taste in my mouth on how I ended the year and how well I was playing and, how accountable I was for the people around me. And I love so many people in Kansas City, both in that facility, in the community. It's home for me now. I don't want to leave that life yet. I put in a lot of hard work and I put in a lot of, focus into being the best that I can for KC. Last year, it just, it didn't end well for us. I feel like there's a responsibility in me to play out the contract that I initially signed, to give Kansas City and the Chiefs organization everything that I got. And that's what I'm going to do, man.
Look, this is exactly what it should be for Travis Kelce. This is exactly why he should come back and exactly the way it should all play out. And the reason I say that is because Travis Kelce had a terrible Super Bowl. I mean, he knows he did. I actually left Travis Kelce alone in the postgame for the Super Bowl. If you watch that episode, I mentioned him, but I kind of just said something happened. I don't know what it was, but that wasn't Travis Kelce out there in the Super Bowl. What we saw in New Orleans was not Travis Kelce. So I knew something had to be going on. And then Brett Veach, the Chiefs general manager, comes out and he tells us Travis Kelce was hurt. Or he was sick. Travis Kelce was sick. That makes sense to me because I'm watching Travis Kelce out there during the Super Bowl and I'm like, he looks tired. I didn't want to say he looked old just yet because I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Does he have an injury? Is there something that happened? He seemed so off by all levels that I was curious, what's going on with Travis Kelce? Well, Brett Veach told us, illness. Now, with all that said, obviously Travis Kelce looks back at last season and there are some games he wants back. But what I do know is that what I saw from Travis Kelce last year was flashes. And not just flashes and moments. I mean, flashes in games. Games where Travis Kelce came out and suddenly he looked like the Travis Kelce of old, including the divisional round of the playoffs. People want to call Travis Kelce washed. Travis Kelce took over the game against the Houston Texans and dominated the divisional round of the playoffs like he was 22. So I don't want to hear that Travis Kelce doesn't have anything left in the tank, because it's flat out not true. And when he comes back next year, he is going to have the final year that he deserves, where he comes in completely focused, dialed in, ready to take the Chiefs to another Super Bowl and redeem the loss that they had against the Philadelphia Eagles while maintaining the absolute beast mode that is Travis Kelce. That's what I expect next year. And I'm telling you, him coming back, it couldn't be better for the Kansas City Chiefs. You have another year to fill that hole at tight end that Travis Kelce is going to leave, which is going to be incredibly difficult. Noah Gray looks great, but you have to explore other options. I see the Chiefs are out there talking to tight ends at the NFL Combine. The Chiefs are building up that position. And now Travis is giving them an extra year to do so while coming back with a chip on his shoulder to prove everybody wrong and redeem his Super Bowl performance. That's the kind of guy that the Chiefs want to have in that spot. And that's what brings Travis Kelce back next year, and I think he's going to be fantastic. Now, what does Travis Kelce have to do in order to capitalize on this next season?
Factor was losing a Super Bowl in the decision.
It was probably the biggest factor.
If you would have won, would you have come back for another season?
I mean, it's a pretty cool way to go out, but I still have this love for the game. And
if you want to play, you want to play.
I think I would have thought about it more if we would have won.
Going out on top is nice.
He has to focus. It gets harder when you get older to focus, man. Remember when you were in your early 20s and it was like time to grind? You're just like, yeah, let's go. And you just go in the lab for 10 hours. It's like not even a thing. And then as you get older, it gets harder. Your energy levels are lower. That's part of life, right? Travis is going to be 36 next year. Energy levels start to drop a little bit. You have other stuff going on in your life. Travis Kelce's in movies. He's dating Taylor Swift. He has a successful podcast. There's a lot of things that Travis Kelce has to kind of compartmentalize that he didn't have to when he was younger in his career. I mean, if Catching Kelce had been a success, maybe it would have been different. But it wasn't. So really all that was just an off-season endeavor he would like to forget about. But at this point in Travis's career, remaining focused is incredibly difficult. So that's Travis's next step. How does Travis remain focused and build so that he can consistently perform for the Kansas City Chiefs in 2025? Because that, to me, like, a lot of people like to make these grandiose things like, oh, Travis Kelce's washed or he's done. The reality of the situation from last season, Travis Kelce was inconsistent. Travis had games where he came out and he looked like an absolute monster. He looked dialed in. He looked rugged. He was ready to fight. And then there were other games where he came out and he looked timid. He looked timid. And I think people saw that as him looking old. But getting older doesn't mean that you just show up sometimes. No, getting older is more of a linear descent. This wasn't that. That's not what last year was for Travis Kelce. There were certain games where he looked dialed in. There were other games where Travis Kelce just looked a little unfocused. So that is the key for Travis Kelce to capitalize on his 2025 season, is to remain that focused beast that we know he is, that monster that is Travis Kelce. Because he comes in with a lot of fire, and that's what we see, the best Travis Kelce. You might not like it all the time. People might complain because he bumps into Andy Reid and yells at him because Andy's not giving him the ball. But what happened in the second half of that Super Bowl last year against the 49ers? Right? You might not like that he bumped into Andy Reid, but in the second half, Andy woke up, got the ball to Travis Kelce. Travis took over the game, and the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, George Kittle on the other sideline didn't get in Kyle Shanahan's ear. Shanahan forgot about him, and the 49ers offense fell apart. So you could say what you want about Travis Kelce, but his methods work. And when he's dialed in and he's intense like he was in that Super Bowl against the 49ers, when Travis is dialed in and he's intense and he has that fire in his belly, burning, ready to fight somebody, that's the best Travis Kelce you can get. So to capitalize on his return for 2025, Travis has to find that fire on a consistent basis. We saw it in some games, divisional round of the playoffs, where he took games over. But now, for his final year, Travis Kelce has to find that fire on a weekly basis. And that will be the difference for Travis in 2025. And I 1,000% expect that to happen. Anything else we have on this? I think we're good. Yeah, we covered everything for Travis Kelce. Happy to have him back, obviously.
Flag, but he won't. Murray coming on a blitz now and wide open. It's Kelce. Breaks the tackle, still going. Travis Kelce down near the 6.
So happy to have Travis Kelce back and so happy to have his energy back on the sideline. And he didn't get his guys ready. I get all that. What he said in the New Heights podcast, I understand. But the number one thing Travis Kelce has to do is focus on showing up every week consistently. If Travis does that, sky's the limit, man. There is nothing wrong with what happened last year for Travis Kelce. He had a good season, but he could have had a better season, and he knows that. So I'm very curious to see what Travis Kelce comes back like. And by the way, Travis Kelce, even on the New Heights podcast, he already looks better. He looks clearer. He looks more relaxed. Maybe the pressure of trying to three-peat while having everybody gun for him every single week, people chasing around Jason Kelce in parking lots, yelling homophobic slurs about Travis, maybe that weighed on Travis a little bit while attempting that three-peat because he already looks better. He already looks more relaxed. He looks like he's lost some weight. He looks in better shape. So let's see what Travis Kelce does in 2025, because if he comes back ready to play and focused, then Travis Kelce's going to be an absolute monster. And I can't wait to see it. All right, now, the 2025 Chiefs season will be remembered for one thing. I'll tell you what that is here in just a second. Also, there's one Chiefs player who has the most important offseason of 2025, and it's not Travis Kelce. We'll tell you who that is coming up here in just a few minutes. But first, the 2025 Chiefs season will be known for one thing: Patrick's revenge. Patrick Mahomes has a new haircut. He's dialed in. He's already working out, putting in the time, and this feels like a guy that is so hungry to prove everybody wrong. I think it became clear to the Chiefs players during Super Bowl week and during the media frenzy exactly all the hatred that came down on the Chiefs last year and all of the time that was spent trying to discount Patrick Mahomes as a player every single week. People called him overrated. They said he wasn't good enough. Oh, well, he's getting these calls and the officials are babying him. That's crap, first of all. And second of all, now that Patrick Mahomes heard all of that before the Super Bowl and he has to live with that for the offseason, coming off of a devastating loss to the Eagles, he is going to be dialed in. And we're already seeing it. Cut his hair, got in the gym, already putting in the work. This has all the makings of a 2025 MVP season for Patrick Mahomes. And I can't wait to see it. He's going to come out guns blazing, firing all over the place. And I'm telling you, calling it right now, this will be one of the greatest seasons in Patrick Mahomes' career. He's got the fire. He's going to have Rashee Rice back. He's going to have Xavier Worthy. He's going to have Travis Kelce back in his final season. Everybody's going to be coming together as a cohesive unit to try to create the greatest season in Chiefs history, and it will be known as Patrick Mahomes' revenge. That's the goal for this Chiefs team, and I think they're going to reach it. Patrick Mahomes is the heart and soul of this team with Travis Kelce, and knowing that this is their last ride, one of the greatest duos in history, statistically, the greatest duo in history, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. This is their last ride, and it's coming off of a devastating loss. You couldn't ask for more motivation than the Kansas City Chiefs have right now, and that's got to make you fired up for the future and what this season could be for the Kansas City Chiefs. Those two guys together, knowing for sure this is our last ride, and knowing that they have all the pieces to make it happen, and knowing that Patrick Mahomes could come back with an MVP season, that is the absolute precipice of greatness. They're right there. They're right on that precipice. And they've already shown it so many years in the past. They've already shown it so many different times how great this duo can be. And the fact that they have one more time to show that they are the greatest duo in the history of the NFL should skyrocket motivation for Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. And frankly, skyrocket motivation for the entire Chiefs franchise to make this year the most unforgettable year in Chiefs history. And I think it'll happen. I really believe that Patrick Mahomes comes in and sets the NFL on fire, quiets down all the haters, everybody wanting to talk about how he's being carried. That's ridiculous. Mahomes did a lot to protect the defense last year. The Chiefs had by far more drives, more scoring drives of 10-plus plays last season than any team in the NFL. Now, what does that mean? It means they had a methodical offense. They tried to protect the defense. They went short. They didn't try to go over the top a bunch of times. They tried to maintain ball security, protect the defense, win the game in the end. That was the structure of the Kansas City Chiefs. And by the way, it led them to a 15-1, kind of 15-2 season, the number one seed locked up by Christmas, and an AFC championship. So it worked. But I don't think that's the structure of the team this year. I think the structure of the team in 2025 will be Patrick Mahomes making it rain, and we will see an offensive-based team in Kansas City for the first time in a while. They've been leaning on the defense smartly, by the way. But I think coming into this year, you will see Patrick Mahomes push for a more offensive game plan and a more offensive-focused team. I think that's what we see this season, and why not? How many times can you win the close games? It has to give at some point. So you have to come out and have to lay it on. That's going to be the structure of this Chiefs team. And I think we're going to see an explosive offense in Kansas City, probably closer to 2022 than to 2023 or 24, right? Because in 23 and 24, the offense really protected the defense. In 22, didn't happen that way. Now, while the Chiefs had great success, and I don't want to discount anything that happened last year, the players that you have and the type of play, the type of game plan you're going to have to put together means you're going to need a more offensive-focused game plan, and you're going to see infinitely better numbers for Patrick Mahomes. And it's going to quiet down a lot of the haters. A lot of the people that think Patrick Mahomes is overrated. Take your overrated noise somewhere else. That's pathetic. It reminds me of Tom Brady back in 2007 when they lost the Super Bowl to the Giants after an undefeated season. People instantly were like, oh, they lost one game, so everything we said is true. All the doubts are true. That's not how life works. But that's how narratives work. People wait. They were waiting so long for the Chiefs to lose one. And now that they have, they're going to pretend all of their narratives about Patrick Mahomes, all of their narratives about the referees, oh, they were all true. They weren't true. And I think that's going to be proven even further this year for Patrick Mahomes. Now, God, it does remind me of 2022. If you remember 2022, coming into that season, people were saying, Joe Burrow's the best quarterback in the NFL. There's no way the Chiefs are going to make it back to the playoffs. They had them finishing dead last in the AFC West. Barstool Sports had that. And then the Chiefs went on to win a Super Bowl as Patrick Mahomes won MVP and became the first quarterback since Kurt Warner in 1999 to win the MVP and then go win the Super Bowl. So there's no reason to believe that 2025 won't be just like 2022. Haircut Mahomes coming at you, man. It's on. Now, there is a terrifying prospect coming on the horizon for the NFL that will absolutely impact the Chiefs. We'll get to that here in just a moment. But first, there's one player on the Chiefs team that has, I think, the most important offseason of 2025. Travis Kelce? Good argument for it, right? Tell me in the comments, who do you think has the most important offseason? It could be Travis Kelce, right? Last season for him, his final run, he's going to have a lot to play for. And he has a very strong offseason. He's going to have to stay focused. He's going to have to come in very good shape. He's going to be 36 years old. It's going to take a lot for him to come back and play at a very high level. But I don't think he has the most important offseason in 2025. Patrick Mahomes, To an extent, yeah, the haircut makes it more exciting, and the fact that he's already posting the workout videos and getting after it, yeah, that gets you fired up, right? Pretty good. What about Isaiah Pacheco? I think Isaiah Pacheco is a good argument. He is. He came off the injury last year, a broken leg, which is very tough to come back from. And after Pacheco came back, he struggled. Right? It wasn't the same guy. He broke his leg. He had like 8 screws and a metal plate in his leg after he broke his fibula, his leg. What are medical terms? No, he broke his leg. He comes back. And I think for a guy coming off of a broken leg, Isaiah Pacheco actually did pretty well. Now he has a full offseason to let that leg heal, let his leg come back, let his speed come back, and let his ability to run angry come back. So Isaiah Pacheco has a chance to have the most important offseason of 2025. However, I still do not put him at number one. The number one most important offseason for the Kansas City Chiefs of 2025, Xavier Worthy. Because now we get to see who you really are. There are a lot of flash in the pan rookie wide receivers throughout history that did very well their rookie season and then had the sophomore slump. They start reading the press clippings. They start believing they're as good as people say they are, and then they start to fall off. What Xavier Worthy is going to have to prove in 2025 is that he can take that great rookie season and build on it, become even better, because some guys fall off in their second year. Some guys become legitimate, full-fledged NFL superstars in their second year, and I think Xavier Worthy is going to have every opportunity to be that guy. So as Xavier Worthy continues down that road and he continues to train this offseason, he will have, in my opinion, the most important offseason of 2025. Because if Xavier Worthy puts in the time and he dominates this offseason, I think he could be right up there with the best wide receivers in the NFL, where you're talking about Justin Jefferson and Xavier Worthy. You're talking about Jamar Chase and Xavier Worthy. He's going to be right in that conversation in 2025, provided that he puts in the time this offseason to continue to develop the immaculate talent that Xavier Worthy has. And I see no reason to believe he wouldn't. I see no reason to believe that Xavier Worthy won't walk into this season and be even better than he was last year. And he had a lot to like last year. But getting better separation downfield, coming up with catches better downfield, even though he did very well with that last year, there's always room for improvement. And the fact is, in the NFL, everybody's always putting in their best time in the offseason. They're always working their tail off in the offseason. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means if you don't work your tail off in the offseason, you get passed. But with Xavier Worthy's talent, if he puts in the extra time to be truly great this offseason, then Xavier Worthy will elevate, and he will be right up there with the greatest wide receivers in the NFL. And if the Chiefs get Rashee Rice back healthy, and he can elevate up to where he was last year before he got injured, well, now we're talking about a 1-2 punch of wide receiver that nobody's going to be able to stop. Add a veteran, add a couple of things, a couple of pieces to really fill out that wide receiver core, and now you have still Noah Gray and Travis Kelce and a revamped offensive line that's been completely retooled by Brett Veach. Well, you have an offense that can be a juggernaut. But Xavier Worthy is going to be a key piece of that offense, and it will probably go big play-wise as Xavier Worthy goes. And that's why, in my opinion, the most important offseason of 2025 belongs to Xavier Worthy. But again, that's an opinion. There's a lot of options. I laid out a few of them. There's a good amount of options. Maybe Brett Veach has the most important offseason now that he has to rebuild the entire offensive line, right? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe Brett Veach is the guy. Let's see. Is it Brett? I don't know. Comments down below. Let me know who has the most important offseason of 2025 for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Exactly.
The throw caught. Worthy looking for the pylon.
Now, the most annoying fans have emerged in the NFL. It's I still see it every day. It drives me nuts. Absolutely crazy. We'll get to it here in just a few minutes. But first, there's a terrifying prospect coming on the horizon for the NFL. There are now calls for a Super Bowl to be held in London. Oh, Roger, don't do it. Roger, don't do it. It picked up some steam. It's been around, actually, for a few weeks. I saw it on Yahoo Sports and a few other places talking about the NFL floating the idea of playing a Super Bowl in London. And then Diana Rossini, senior NFL insider for The Athletic, joined Part of My Take with Barstool Sports. And she said, I'd be open to it. This is kind of how this works. First, they float it out there in the media. It becomes a thing out in the kind of stretch. Roger hasn't said anything yet, but we know Roger wants it, right? I mean, if you follow Roger Goodell's career since taking over as commissioner in 2006, then you know that man wants nothing more than to have a Super Bowl on foreign soil because he wants to expand the game. That's been his deal. He's expanded it. And you know what? To be fair, it's worked. He's expanded it internationally. Have you seen the games in Germany? They're some of the best games the NFL has. He's expanded it to women. The female audience has risen exponentially since 2006 when Roger Goodell took over. So his game expansion has worked. But because of that, you know he is chomping at the bit for a London Super Bowl. Over my dead body. I want nothing to do with a London Super Bowl. And if and when it happens, and I think it will, I will go to the NFL headquarters. I'll stand outside and protest Roger Goodell while wearing my 1776 championship t-shirt. And he's going to have to call the police to get me out of there because there is no world where I would be okay with a Super Bowl in London. Just like if they moved the Premier League championship to Los Angeles, everybody in Europe would hate it. By the way, it's been floated out there to move it to New York City, I think, and they do hate it. Every European hates it. Why are you taking our games and moving them to other countries? Do not alienate your core fan base while trying to expand the game. And Roger's done it since he took over as commissioner, so I have no reason to believe that he won't keep doing it. And now that it's starting to be floated out there, hey, maybe an international Super Bowl. It's going to keep happening, guys. It's going to happen before I'm gone. Hopefully. Never know what's going to happen. But before we're old, I'll put it that way, before I'm old, there will be a Super Bowl in London. I promise you that, because that's just the way the NFL has operated under Roger Goodell. And now they're making infinite amounts of money. They've grown the business ever since he took over. It's hard to argue with his moves from a business standpoint. Right? From a business standpoint, it's impossible to argue that Roger Goodell has done a bad job as commissioner of the NFL. But from a fan standpoint, all the big hits are gone. They've made it the no fun league. They fine everybody for everything. My goodness, you can't even walk one way or the other without getting fined in the NFL now. And they want to expand the game so badly that they're going to move a Super Bowl to London. It's going to happen. And I am not here for it, man. I'm just not here for it. It's the one thing Americans and Europeans can ever agree on. Keep our football championship in our yard. It's the one thing. If the Chiefs played a Super Bowl and they played it in London, here's the counter argument. I'll give the counter argument here because there's a good one. Who can afford to go anyway? There's the counter argument to not moving the Super Bowl to London. Who can afford to go to it now? Can you go to the Super Bowl? I can't. It's too expensive. So if they move it to international, it's not like, New Orleans, London. Who cares? I can't go anyway. Because nobody outside of corporate America and the sponsors that sponsor the NFL can actually afford to make it to a Super Bowl. It's now become a game for the elites. So if you move it to London, well, the elites are just going to fly to London. So it's not this huge deal from a standpoint of actually going to the game. So from that perspective, it makes sense. It's like, well, what are you really doing? You've already priced us out of it anyway, so you might as well move it to another country because we can't go to it in the first place. That would be the argument for moving it to another country, but really, that's just a nihilistic perspective. It's a nihilistic perspective of looking at the reality of cost in the NFL and a cost of going to a Super Bowl. So I guess my overall point here is, as much as I hate the idea of a Super Bowl going to London or the Super Bowl going to a foreign country, it's going to happen. There's no world where it doesn't happen. So we just got to buckle up and accept the fact that it's just probably going to happen. As much as I don't like it, and I will protest it. I will be there with my Revolutionary War Championship t-shirt on, protesting every step of the way, Roger. But I know for a fact they're going to have a Super Bowl in London, I would guess within the next 10 years. But again, I can't afford to go anyway, so hold it on Mars. I still can't afford to go to it, you know? It can be in Los Angeles. It can be in New Orleans. It can be in Miami. It doesn't matter. Normal fans can't afford to go anyway. So we have our Super Bowl parties. That's why, like, people always ask, are you going to go to the Super Bowl? I'm like, I don't know. Do you have 10 grand to burn? Like, that's the answer. Like, that's it. If you want to go to the Super Bowl, if you have 10 grand, and that's minimum, guys. That's minimum. That's for tickets, for airfare, for food. Minimum. You're looking at 10 grand per person to go to the Super Bowl. You can go to the Bahamas for 2 weeks and probably see some of the players who got knocked out of the playoffs instead of going to the Super Bowl. And it would cost you the same amount. Maybe even less, depending on how you decide to roll. It's crazy. It's crazy how expensive that game is. It's crazy. Still don't love taking it to another country. Now, there is one... there's one more thing I want to touch on this, and then we'll get to the annoying fans. There's one more thing. I think expansion is going to kill off a lot of leagues, a lot of professional leagues. They're already overextended. There's already too many teams, and the NFL wants to expand to other countries. It's a very risky move, especially when it comes to the idea of moving the Super Bowl to another country. What are we talking about? You're going to expand outside of the United States. You're struggling to get people to want to go to Cleveland Browns games, to Jacksonville Jaguars games. There's such a lack of parity right now in the NFL. Despite the salary cap, there's a lack of parity, and I think expansion, in the end, will hurt the league. It's hurt the NBA. Also, the product is terrible. There's a lot of factors there. But my point is, expansion overall can stretch you too thin. And as popular as the NFL is right now, I don't know that popularity is going to hold on or continue to grow. But I think their business model is expansion. It's just an interesting conversation. I don't know. I look at expansion as a thing that can doom you, but I've seen the NFL keep doing it for the last almost 20 years. The Chiefs have been expanding, or the NFL has been expanding. And it seems to continue to work. So that's a long roundabout way to get to the point of who knows what happens with the Super Bowl, but I will not like it in London. I promise you that. All right, now there is one veteran player the Chiefs absolutely need to get, and it just got harder to get him. I'll tell you who that is coming up here in just a few moments, but first, the most annoying fans have emerged in the NFL, and they're the ones who are piling on the Chiefs, pretending that their ridiculous narratives were true all year long. It's so ridiculous. They come in, well, this is what happens when a Chiefs game gets called fair. No, it's not. This is what happens when the Chiefs don't come out prepared. The Chiefs came out flat, they lacked energy, and they had a poor game plan, and they got out-coached by Nick Sirianni. That's what happened in the Super Bowl. But obviously, because all of these fans, these annoying fan bases, wanted to see the Chiefs fall so badly because their teams are terrible. That's what this really is. When your team is terrible, you root for the best team to lose. We all did it when the Patriots were on top. I'm as guilty as anybody, but I see the error of my ways, and I think the rest of the NFL fan bases need to see the error of their ways, because saying that the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl because a game finally got called fair is so ridiculously stupid it makes my mind numb. And then there are people that say, well, the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl, so Patrick Mahomes has really been a fraud the whole time, which is absolutely insane. And I can't wait for Patrick Mahomes to take that fuel from your absolutely insane narrative and shove it right back in your face in 2025 as the Mahomes Revenge Tour starts. Because that's what this is. It's the Mahomes Revenge Tour. Cut the hair, get back in the weight room, and come out and win an MVP. That's Patrick Mahomes in 2025. I guarantee it. We will see a different Patrick Mahomes in 2025, a hungry Patrick Mahomes, a Mahomes that is no longer focused on protecting the defense, but focused on dominating. And that's a guy who is absolutely terrifying in the NFL. Somebody that everyone should fear every moment. That's who Patrick Mahomes is going to be. And he's going to shut up these ridiculous narratives that I still see. I still see them today. People having their nice little victory lap because the Chiefs finally lost one. Oh, good for you. They finally lost a game, so you feel okay running around and saying they were frauds the whole time, when it couldn't be further from the truth, because in reality, they went up against the best roster in the NFL. We said it before the game. And the only thing the Chiefs had was a coaching edge in Andy Reid, a quarterback edge in Patrick Mahomes. Well, Andy Reid got out-coached by Nick Sirianni. Patrick Mahomes didn't have a chance to throw the ball the whole game because the Philadelphia Eagles were able to get to him at will in the pocket without ever blitzing. So yeah, of course, people are going to have their little victory lap and make up false narratives and say they were right the whole time because the Chiefs lost a game. But the fact is, they came out, they played a rough game, but now they're going to come back with a vengeance in 2025, and you're going to see a fire like you've never seen it. So keep talking. Enjoy your little victory lap, because a day of reckoning is coming in September, and your ass is the Kansas City Chiefs. Your ass belongs to the Kansas. Yeah, it works. It still works. I just got fired out. I was like, wait, what was that? Your ass belongs to the Kansas City Chiefs.
Can Mahomes do it? Got the P-Ryan. P-Ryan makes the move around Bernard. And
it's coming, baby. I can't wait. Like, I'm already fired up for this season. I'm already like, where's the next Patrick Mahomes workout video? I just want to see it. I can't be more into this. I'm so fired up for it. Yeah, we had a rough month after losing the Super Bowl. That's okay. I drank whiskey every day for 10 days. I was not going to say that on this show, but it's happening. I drink whiskey every day for 10. I go to work, come home, drink whiskey. Go to work, come home, drink whiskey. That was it for 10 days. And then after 10 days, I said, all right, I'm over it. You find a way to get through the tough times, and then you come back even stronger. That's the way of the Kansas City Chiefs. That's the way of Kansas City as a whole, and you can't stop it. Might have some whiskey tonight. Why not? It's good. It's good during the bad times. It's good during the good times. That's the nice thing about whiskey. It's very interchangeable. You can have it at the good. By the way, any whiskey company want to be part of the show, that I would definitely listen to. I've turned down some advertisers, but if a whiskey company wants to be part of the show, I think we can make it work, man, because that's real. That's honest. That's true to me. So we can talk about that. All right, now, there's one thing that made me realize we should build a Brett Veach statue at One Arrowhead Drive. And I'll tell you what it is here coming up in just a moment. But first, the one Chiefs player the Chiefs needed in free agency, the one guy the Chiefs needed to go grab, is being held hostage by the worst franchise in the NFL, the Cincinnati Bengals, because T. Higgins for the Kansas City Chiefs would create an unstoppable offense that would almost guarantee an MVP for Patrick Mahomes in 2025. The Chiefs need T. Higgins, and those bastards over in Cincinnati put a franchise tag on him because despite being the worst franchise imaginable in the NFL, they refuse to just let their star go find greener pastures. You're going to pay Jamar Chase a ton of money. You're paying a bunch of guys. Why are you trying to keep T. Higgins with a franchise tag? Why are you holding your players hostage? This is what makes the Cincinnati Bengals such a trash organization. They wasted Joe Burrow. They've wasted Jamar Chase. They've done nothing right since getting beaten the Super Bowl by the Los Angeles Rams, and they couldn't even make the playoffs last season. And you're telling me T. Higgins getting franchise tagged is going to make them better? It won't. So the one guy the Chiefs should go get in free agency, the one guy that makes a massive impact for the Kansas City Chiefs in 2025 is being held hostage by a garbage organization that shouldn't even really be part of the NFL, considering how bad their grades were when it came to taking care of players and their families. What a joke of an organization the Cincinnati Bengals are. And if T. Higgins got a chance to come to Kansas City and play for the Chiefs, he would finally be able to release himself from the shackles of the Cincinnati Bengals and come to a juggernaut that is the Kansas City Chiefs. And I still hold out hope that in some way, T. Higgins will be in a red uniform next year in Kansas City, because I still believe that the Chiefs can find a way to outfox those idiots in Cincinnati and get T. Higgins for a price. But I'll tell you what, there is one reason why I feel good either way, and that's because I see how bad general managers are across leagues. Doesn't matter where, everywhere. Call it the Cleveland Browns GM, right? I think Deshaun Watson might not play another game for the Browns. How much did they give him? 200 what million? 240? He's not going to play another game for the Cleveland Browns. Are you kidding me? Then I see the Mavericks and Lakers trade, the Luka trade, which is basically like trading Luka Doncic for what they got from the LA Lakers is like trading Patrick Mahomes for Travis Etienne. It's legitimately one of the dumbest trades in the history of time, and it makes me so grateful that Brett Veach is the Kansas City Chiefs general manager, because in no world do we ever have to worry about Brett Veach doing something as stupid as Nico did in Dallas with the Mavericks. I trust 1,000% in Brett Veach, because everything he does tends to work out even when people don't get it. He traded Tyreek Hill. The Chiefs were left for dead after that trade. They were picked to finish dead last in the AFC West by Barstool Sports, and they went on to win a Super Bowl the same season that Patrick Mahomes won MVP. So what we have is a trust in Brett Veach. In Veach, we trust because he's earned that trust. And having that kind of general manager, it makes you sleep well at night as a Chiefs fan, knowing that your franchise won't be sold out for some massage rapist like Deshaun Watson, and that you're going to bring in guys who make big-time plays and help the juggernaut that is the Kansas City Chiefs. And it's been a juggernaut in Kansas City since 2013. I mean, you could say, oh, they didn't start winning Super Bowls until Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, but even with Alex Smith, they made the playoffs almost every year. They had a winning season literally every year, and the Chiefs have everything in place to continue the great franchise run they're on. This dynasty is so far from over. You still have Andy Reid. You still have Steve Spagnuolo. You still have Brett Veach. You still have Patrick Mahomes. When you have those four guys, you still have a dynasty. And yeah, there's going to be interchangeable parts. There are going to be guys that come and go. There are going to be guys that leave and guys that come in. That's the way it works. But as long as you have the nucleus of the Kansas City Chiefs, the head coach, defensive coordinator, GM, and quarterback, you have that nucleus of four, then you have a dynasty in Kansas City. So don't get worried about one loss to the Philadelphia Eagles, who had the best roster in the NFL. They were the one team. If you go back and listen, in December, I said the one team you don't want to see it. It was after the Chiefs had clinched the one seed. And we just didn't have much to talk about. So the topic was, who from the NFC do you least want to see in the Super Bowl? I said the Philadelphia Eagles. The roster's stacked. And it is. It's the best roster top to bottom in a long time in the NFL. It is, in a long time. Their overall roster was insane last season. You look at their weapons, you look at their line. My God. Like they have, like everybody talks about Cooper DeJean, AJ Brown, Saquon Barkley, Devonta Smith. We can just keep going down the list. There's players across the board. Darius Slay. Those are all skill position players. So we haven't even gotten to, after everyone I just named, we haven't even gotten to the offensive and defensive line, which were the legitimate reason why the Eagles won the Super Bowl. So that roster was stacked. The Chiefs lost. They came in, they were out-game planned. Out-game planned against a roster that's significantly better than yours. That's what happens. And we know, just because we watched the game, 40-22 wasn't as close as that. But just because the Chiefs went in and got sunned by one team, that doesn't take away what they did in 2024. That doesn't take away the AFC Championship season that the Kansas City Chiefs had. A great season. By every definition, a great season. 15 other teams in the AFC would have loved to go to that Super Bowl and get smoked by the best roster in the NFL, but the Chiefs earned their way there. And they made it further than any team attempting a three-peat in the history of the NFL. And it was clear. They were fatigued. They were tired. They came out flat. They had a rough game plan. They weren't prepared, and they got smacked. It sucks. But in no world does that change the fact that the Chiefs are a dynasty. In no world does that end the Chiefs dynasty. I think we're going into chapter 2. I think the Mahomes haircut did it for me. It's chapter 2. But in no world is the Chiefs dynasty over. In fact, I think we're another 10 years away from the Chiefs dynasty being over. So enjoy it while we got it, and enjoy every second of it, and enjoy the fact that we get to talk about another offseason where the Kansas City Chiefs are a clear contender for the Super Bowl in the NFL. Something that 10 years ago we would have broken down in tears, crying in happiness for. Remember that. Remember that. 10 years ago, we would have broken down crying in happiness that the Chiefs get to enter the season off a Super Bowl loss, attempting a three-peat, and being considered a contender for the Super Bowl once again. We would have loved that 10 years ago. So don't let your depression get the best of you. Have a little bit of whiskey like I did and enjoy yourselves and have a fun offseason, loving the fact that you know that the Kansas City Chiefs have one of the greatest GMs in the NFL in Brett Veach, and that the Chiefs will 100% be back with a vengeance in the 2025 season. Now, we'll continue having shows. We'll continue doing a bunch of different stuff and getting you ready for other things in this offseason. We'll do draft shows, free agency shows, all kinds of stuff. But these are offseason check-in shows, and I got to tell you, I had a lot of fun in this one. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for being part of this show, and I appreciate every single one of you. I love you guys. I can't tell you how much you all mean to me in every possible way. Thank you for everything. And please subscribe, like, share, follow. Anything you could do to help the show, I greatly appreciate it, and I greatly appreciate you.